So I'm here with the phenomenal Faulu Mtume, the son of legendary great composer Mtume. So, oh, see, I'm getting ready to mess it up. Fa.
No. That wasn't. You nailed it. Most people don't get it. That's why I've been going with Fa all these decades.
Okay, I feel happy. I feel accomplished. So
it's the small W's daily, small W's every day.
Listen, I needed this win. You don't understand how big I needed this win, okay? Now we're going to fast forward just to get to the juicy stuff first. And the most important reason that we're having this conversation is because your dad is getting honored in May.
Yeah.
So can you tell us the reason why?
Well, very fortunate to be recognized by the Councilman Kenyatta Johnson that they want to do a celebratory street renaming on the block that he grew up on in South Philadelphia, the 1500 block of Wharton in South Philadelphia. So this is a wonderful honor for our family, for me personally, to accept it on his behalf, but for us, just in the recognition of his where he grew up, the contribution that he's made in this world of music. But then for it to be at his root, at the base, at home base, it's beyond words, the amount of joy we have for that.
That's what's up. Everything starts at home. So
absolutely.
Toggling backwards, what was it like growing up as son and understudy of the great Mtume?
Well, you know what? It was just a wonderful father and son relationship, and I'm fortunate to say that it's the same relationship my sisters and my other brother had. We all shared that same. He was just a wonderful, giving, humble man. So we were never felt like we were in the presence of growing up with Mtume. It was always Baba, and that was something that extended past my sisters and brother, because any of our friends felt welcome that same way, and they all referred to and revered him in that same fatherly way. So he was just, as people in the world may have known him as an entertainer or as an activist for a social positioning. It was really just it all stemmed from the kind of man he was and that he chose to be. Because, with that saying, anybody could be a father, but it takes something special to be the dad. But it takes something extra special to be Baba. To be Baba, you got to be extra special.
Baba. I remember your sister saying that when I spoke to them. So,
oh, you spoke to them? Okay.
Yes, I spoke to them last year. So I know that y'all grew up in a tight-knit family where you were surrounded by love, but you were also kids. You were also teenagers. You did something at one point in time that was just like, okay, come on, bro. Like, what are you doing? Let's have this conversation. So what was that like for you growing up? Because I know you had to have one now.
Wait. Me having a conversation to him or him having one to me?
Him having it with you.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we all did knucklehead stuff. Absolutely. And we were allowed to, because he was someone that he was very he didn't pull any punches, but he was also very keen on that you have to find your way through this world. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to navigate. Your mother and I can provide certain things, but it won't be everything. Hopefully, what we're going to provide you with, most importantly, would be having perspective and, more importantly, perception. Because you're going to have to figure out how to navigate this at some point. Now, if you choose to navigate it with pride, that's one thing. If you choose to navigate it under the shadows and see what kind of slick stuff you can get away with, that choice is yours too. But I can't say, that's a really good question, because I can't think of anything other than, crashing a car.
Ooh.
Or, I mean, that happens. I mean, the worst one was my sister. Well, okay, I can use her. I'm gonna go vicariously through her, if you don't mind. So we were, my sister Ife is 2.5 years older than me. So I was probably 15, so she would have been 17, driving, but didn't have a license, right? So one day, and she's the older sister, so she had some sway over influence with me, right?
Ooh.
So she said, you know what, let's take the car out and let's go ride around the block. Okay. Cool, why not? It was a beautiful spring day, just like we're having now. We drive, and no problem. We come back to the house, and she wants to park it just the same way that the car was taken out, just so there wouldn't be any problems. Unfortunately, the car that was parked in front of us was the Lamborghini he had just bought. And as she's still so delicately trying to inch up it, She gasses it. I don't know why. Next thing I know, we're on top of the back of that car.
What? I know you lying.
Oh yeah. I'm not. Oh, I'm not lying at all. I immediately got out the car and was like, "Hey, I wasn't here. I don't know what just happened." But it's surprising when he came home, and that was he loved that car. It was symbolic. It was and I can only imagine now as a grown man, you know, when you work hard, you get things that you want, that sense of accomplishment, and know that you can, and then you really enjoy this thing. He was pissed, but was he someone that would scream and go crazy? And no, he'll turn the lesson on you to help make you a better person for it. So even though he took the loss, he had to pay for the repair, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it wasn't about how hard he can punish you, because again, the way we were raised, we would subject that on ourselves. We'd have to take responsibility and grow from that. So yeah, it was never anything like he just went crazy and went ballistic. But that was probably, as I'm thinking about it, in the teenage years, that was probably one of the worst things that could happen. Crashing into the back of his red Lamborghini. Absolutely.
Bruh, I freaked out like after seeing my garage getting hit for the umpteenth time, and my daughter saying, "Well, I thought you heard it on the camera."
Yeah.
Girl, what? Lord. Now, you know, you work closely with your father while maturing your own music seriously. Tell us about your most memorable studio vibe or project that y'all worked on together.
Oh man, it was dozens.
Many.
It was many. Because by the time I started getting a bit of chops, and I got to be very clear, by no means do I consider myself like a musician of caliber, and I say that because the bar is very high.
What's that high?
My grandfather had done. When I came along and was deciding to do something on any kind of production level, if it wasn't in an executive production position, kind of like connecting the dots to make things happen, my working was doing with the electronics, with say like the drum machines and things like that. So for me, the most memorable part would have been when he hired me to work on New York Undercover with him to do the score.
Wow.
It wasn't because, you know, he had to. He had a great team of people that were there doing it. And what happened was he had, by like season 2, he decided to build a studio in the basement so he could just work from home, because there was a lot of work to do that show. I mean, you're not only doing the score, but you're also producing that ladled. You have to produce that whole song. So you have to do this within a week. And this isn't, you know, the technology for sending the information back and forth wasn't what it is now. This is the mid-90s. You couldn't just email ideas back and forth. You had to mail this stuff and get feedback. So what I used to do after they would finish working, I would just kind of go into the basement around 11, and I would just start learning the machines. And, you know, so I'd do it from like 11, 6 in the morning. And so one day he came down and he said, "Oh, who did this?" I said, "I did." "Yeah, play me something else." Play me something else. Play him something. He said, "Hey," he said, "You want a gig?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Is it paying?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yo, you got it." And I worked with him throughout the rest of the season as he did the show. So for me personally, that was probably because that was like that nod of approval. And like I said, I didn't think that I was doing anything. I didn't make Juicy Fruit. I didn't make Smilin' Billy, but it was something where it was just kind of like I felt really, really appreciated and kind of validated in a sense for what that was.
Well, in the era that you did it in, it was pretty magnificent. Like you learned a lot, and you probably taught him more than you know. And so he was always a student. That's what made him so great. You know.
Absolutely.
So with that, and you're possibly, I'm not sure, I'm just saying, just based off the pictures that I've seen of you guys and the stories I've heard, you know, listened to, you're possibly the child from the lineage that can do the biopics surrounding the life and the music of your father. So with that, what would be the most, outside of that Lamborghini, what would be the most climactic part that sticks with you from the bottom to the top?
From the bottom to the top, if we were doing his story? Okay, so for me or for him, what I think would be for him, what I know about is, all right. So for me, no, let's go for him. And this is a tough question. You get me on this one. For him, I think there were several moments in his life that kind of really shifted, that made him and shifted him. The first one was in Philadelphia as an athlete and being what he learned in swimming. My father was the first black AAU Mid-Atlantic backstroke champion.
Oh, wow.
In the 60s. Yeah, he was the first guy to receive it. So this was his first chance at really understanding what dedication to something was. And which was very important because this is kind of what instructed how he operated for the rest of his life. The next would be in the 60s when he joined US organization. That's where he found his real social identity in regards to black consciousness. That's where he assumed and received the name Mtume. That's where he met my mother. That's where his family, as a young man, that part of his life. The next would be, and this was probably, sorry, Mom, but this was probably the most influential part, his time with Miles Davis. Getting that call in those 5 years he spent in that band, because then that really solidified a philosophical approach to not only the music, but to life in the music.
Right.
And that, so when you had that combination of what he'd picked up on the way to that, it was to the moon. For me, mine would probably be much more nuanced. I didn't have those kind of things happening the same way. But for me, it would be just the subtle things that I used to see, just him, how he was able to, it was a thing that I picked up from him that I didn't understand what it was, but I knew I wanted it. It was a way that I remember we would walk down the street when I was really young, 7, 8 years old, and I just saw how people respected. It seemed like everybody knew him, he knew everybody, and everybody treated him the same way. It was this kind of thing of not just popularity, but truly like respect,
right,
and earnest. And it was something that I couldn't put my finger on, but I recognized it. So I always modeled myself to want to have those kind of relationships, to carry myself in that certain way, to have, even if I didn't have like a very strong relationship with somebody, we had some kind of interaction that gave a sense of a connection for something. You know what I mean? Just to try and be the best human being you can be, even in these small or large interactions. So for me, those memories of that kind of stuff, and of course, in the studio, seeing him work. I mean, because there was so many times you would see him work with anyone from a Mavis Staples to a Sticky Fingers, to, from the hip hop community to jazz, to anybody, to Mary J. Blige, to D'Angelo's, to all these wonderful, wonderful artists, and how he was able to bring wonderful things out. When he was doing the Stephanie Mills and Roberta Flack and Phyllis Hyman stuff, I was a child, right, but I was there. I was in those studios. But being a little bit older, when he was doing that, when he had, in those mid-90s, when he had that second win with the samples and the Biggie Smalls stuff, being able to see how he was able to connect with them and bring the wisdom that he had, that was, those kind of moments were great, because that was something that was paramount to him, to be able to extract that exchange of information, that wisdom, and being able to pass it on to the next generation.
You're right. The bar was set very high. So
yes. I hope I answered your question. Look, I hope I answered your question, because you hit me with one. I'm like,
No, you answered it beautifully. That's what made me ask the question, because I feel like you would be the one to do the biopic. You're so accurate, and when you talk about his disciplines, and you talk about his standard of excellence, and you talk about his, the level of influence he had on Black people.
Yes.
That's what biopics are made of. But like I said, I've spoken to your sisters, and they're passionate. You say this, you share the same parents, but only you know those specific stories. You know, it's like, I'm sorry.
No. They know plenty of them too. I'm sure they know some I don't. But it was for me personally, it was just, and I don't know if that's the father to son thing. I'm not sure, but it was something that I just recognized. I always made sure I knew he was something special, and so it would be up to me to pay attention. If that makes sense.
I think you admired. He was your hero. Yeah. So
absolutely,
you're gonna see the best parts of him, even if it's bad. You learned from it because that's what he taught you. So you saw a hero.
Absolutely. Oh no, look, you're 100% correct. Because I would tell people that it's difficult, when the archetype of manhood. Well, it's not. No, actually, it's quite easy. When the archetype of manhood is actually your father, it's not a fantasy. I don't have to look somewhere else. He's right there.
Right.
And sometimes you run the risk of taking it for granted because it's right there and it's in your face. You really don't see the full picture, or you don't see it how other people might. And you're not supposed to. Like even when we lost him last year. That was probably one of the things profoundly that made it a little bit easier to deal with. I mean, we knew it was coming. He'd always prepared us, even when he was healthy. Hey, this is life. This is how this is going to go. You never want it when it comes, but okay, it came. One of the things that made it a bit easier was that the pain wasn't just my own.
Mm. It was your siblings
so
as well.
So many people cared for it. So it kind of diluted. Right. The siblings, he had some people that didn't even know him personally, but he had affected them some way. The kind of outpouring that you would get, and even if someone's just sending a caring message. Hey, I didn't know him, but I listened to him every day on Sunday on open line. So there was a loss for them too. So I mean, I lost my father, but we all lost Mtume.
Oh yeah, when you think about what he brought to Black culture, it is irreplaceable. Every generation has that musical genius, and to survive from generation to generation through the Michael Jackson era, the Prince era, to outlive them all, we lost a great composer.
We did.
So
we did.
In other interviews, you talked about your lineage. Like just now, you're talking about it. So how do you plan to carry on the lineage?
Well, my father, his saying was always, your legacy is your work and your children.
That's right.
His work is done. So as a child, it's just my job to not mess it up. So to protect the lineage, we just want to make sure that, what he wanted to do creatively, the principles that he had, the integrity that he had for his music, make sure as the director of his catalog, to make sure that I'm still holding everything to that standard, to make sure that we're expanding the music, not just the music, the message and what the man was behind it. So if we do, I hope we do have an opportunity to do a biopic or a documentary, so we can really paint that vivid picture of all that he was, and not just a musician. He was a Renaissance man. He was an intellect. He was politically charged. He was socially conscious. It was all these other things that made him that. So to answer your question, it would just to protect and expand on what he left for us.
I love it. So you kind of took you answered my last question, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Like you mentioned that Mtume didn't need to work like the precise projects that set him up for life, like New York Undercover and all the other projects that, like, he left the trail of breadcrumbs to where he got bread. he could have retired and he did not. Okay, so do you think? And I think you definitely answered the question, but I'm going to rephrase it differently. Do you think he left this world full?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and this is something that we talked about. Mm-hmm. We talk about it often. Obviously, there was much more that he would have liked to have done, because there was things he would have wanted to see with his own eyes. But I think he left abundantly full. He left in the sense that we're still being filled up with the excess. So yes, I think he left accomplishing more than he would have ever dreamed he would have. Absolutely. Because he never did any of that stuff with the intent. Like, he never wrote a song with the intention of, this needs to be a hit.
See, that's why you got to do the biopic. And when you do it, hire me.
Hey, look, you gonna be right there with me. You gonna be right there with me.
Right, okay.
You asking the right questions to make sure we get it done right.
Period, Pooh. So, and I'm gonna ask you again to let the people know where they can come and support or just show up to be part of that street naming.
Absolutely, and I thank you again for giving me some time to talk with you. It's wonderful. I'm glad you met my sisters first, but now it's my turn, and it was wonderful. It has been I look forward to our next one. But Friday, May 12th, South Philadelphia, at the 1500 block of Wharton Street, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we are having the street naming for James Mtume. It's going to be a celebration. We're going to have food, fun, great people, a great time in front of the house that he grew up in. So again, that's Friday, May 12th, 11 to 2 p.m., the 1500 block of Wharton Street in South Philadelphia.
Boom. Thank you so much, Fa. See, we got action.
Thank you.
And
we got action. Thank you.
We got action, and I appreciate you even riding. You know better because you already talked about that car accident. But
hey, look. I ain't no fool. I got in the passenger side.
Oh, okay. I can dig it.